Land Rover has reached back into its past and clawed back the old Velar name used on the original 1970 Range Rover prototype for this, the new Velar. It's based on the same rough aluminium architecture as Jaguar's F-Pace SUV, but it is very much a Range Rover product. You can see that they've really slimmed down the styling and toned down the bling from other Range Rover products. And in this lovely new cabin, there's a clever new split touchscreen with very, very few physical buttons, and as you can see, some ambient lighting as well. It really is a very pretty car inside and out, much more so than has been the case lately for Land Rover and Range Rover products, and one suspects that its appeal might be all the greater still because of that. This Touch Pro Duo split screen thing is really quite clever. You can switch some functions between the upper and lower screens, and all you really need are those two rotary controllers and the volume switch, although given Land Rover's reputation for reliability issues, one does wonder how well it will continue to work as the car ages. There is an interesting option on the inside as well. Instead of leather, if you fancy, you can have premium cloth and fake suede vegan specification seats. Not many people will take up that option in Ireland apparently, but Land Rover's confident that around the world it will gain favour. Speaking of around the world, Land Rover brought us all the way to the rugged west coast of Norway to test drive the new Velar, which offered us an interesting combination of some very tight, twisty, although rather heavily speed-limited roads and some spectacular off-road sections. And for all the Velar's urbanite smooth good looks, this is where it really, really excels. When you start fiddling with the terrain response controls, start nosing that gorgeous nose into deep water. It can travel in water up to 650mm deep as standard, and onto the rocks, stones and loose shale of the off-road world. Up here on the road though, it is more than likely, I think, the best handling Land Rover product we've yet seen. You can really feel the Jaguar influence at work on both the steering and the suspension, although I should add the caveat that so far we've only driven the powerful V6 versions with the optional air suspension. It remains to be seen what a 2-litre turbo diesel with the standard steel springs will feel like. But in this specification, it's really impressive. It's both sharp and engaging to drive around corners, particularly when you switch it over into dynamic mode, but it's also very relaxed. It's also a car in which you can just sit back, let the engine and the chassis take the strain, and feel yourself effortlessly carried across country, sometimes driving across rather more of the country and indeed under some of the country than you might expect at first. Now, it is very expensive. This V6 diesel is spec'd up to €110,000, although prices do start from a much more reasonable €62,000. Not a small car, although it's not very massive inside, but one suspects that it will pretty much fly out of showrooms. After all, how could something this good looking and with this mixture of capabilities not do so?